Welcome, drummers. I'm here to give you the lowdown on cymbals. Let's start with the hi-hat, which is also called the hats. You have a top and a bottom hat, and unless you have some beginner cymbals, they're going to be labeled as such, top and bottom. So you want to keep that in mind when you're putting them on so you get the right sound. The hi-hat is used to keep the pulse, whether that's eighth notes or quarter notes or 16th notes. You know, it's also used to keep the pulse with your foot while you're doing other things on the drums. So that's the main purpose of the hats. Let's move to the crash cymbal. A crash cymbal is usually 14 to 18 inches and it's got a medium decay. That means how quickly the sound stops and dies down. A crash is much like its name. It's used as an accent. You're crashing on it. Now let's move on to the splash. The splash serves the same purpose as a crash. It's just smaller, so it has a higher pitch and a faster decay. Splashes are 12 inches and smaller. 8 and 10 inches are really common. I think I've seen 6 inches out there, but I've not seen smaller. I don't think I have, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. And again, same way you would use a crash. Now, my splash, it's going to take me a while to unwind this, is mounted on top of my crash. That's what I like to do. And I use a little piece of hardware made by Gibraltar. It's only like about 10 bucks and it's called a cymbal stacker. I like the straight cymbal stackers more than the ones with the tilt. This one is called a 4-inch, but the part between the two cymbals is really only like 2 inches. These come in these come in 4, 6, and 8. So you can actually mount it significantly higher than that, and you can mount even another one on top of that. So for me, that's a great way to mount these. Moving on to the ride cymbal. Ride cymbals are typically 20 inches and larger, most commonly 20, 21, and 22. There are some 24 and 26s out there, but those are significantly more rare. Now, the cymbal companies do make some 18 and 20-inch hybrids that are called crash rides. That it's one cymbal that can be used as your crash or your ride. The ride is much like its name because you ride on it. Now, being such a large cymbal, it's got a slow decay, and you can hear how it keeps ringing and ringing. That's called the wash. So some people want a crash with a lot of wash, and some people want a more dry cymbal that doesn't have a lot of wash. This one does not have a whole lot. When you're playing your ride, there's lots of different zones. You know, down here you're going to get more wash building up, and you can always be hitting the bell. If you're hitting the bell, you know what a lot of people do is use the shaft of the stick to hit the bell, and that's a very aggressive sound. Or you can just use the bead of the stick. That's a much more light sound. So those are some ideas with the ride. A ride can also be crashed, and a crash can be ridden, you know. So especially in jazz a lot, they will crash their rides. But like I said, you know, you can ride on a crash. If you have a beginner drum set, it just came with one cymbal, and you don't know if it's a crash or ride, and it's probably sounds like a trash can lid. That is okay. That's more than okay. It's great. just use it as a crash and a ride. Because when you're learning how to play, you're going to learn just as well on that one chintzy little cymbal than you are on cast bronze, crash and rides. And the nice thing about having that cheap, old, junky cymbal is you have time to get better and start to develop preferences of what you really want out of a cymbal, what sound you're looking for. Now, all the major cymbal companies, which would be Sabian, Paiste, Zildjian, Meinl, they all make lower line cymbals that are sheet bronze. Those are more economical. And then they make higher end cymbals that are cast bronze. Sheet bronze will you can buy them individually, but you can buy them in like a full set where you get all the cymbals at once. That's kind of nice because your cymbals are going to be well matched and work together, sort of like their own little symphony. Then again, the nice thing about buying cymbals individually is you pick that ride that is exactly the sound you're looking for, and then you hand pick that crash that is so exactly what you want. So there's advantages to both. Now, I also got a question about where do you put your cymbals? That is completely a preference. You can put it wherever you want. Most typically, right-hand players prefer their ride over here on the right, because then when you're playing it, you've got this open-handed position where you can move really nicely with this hand and do a lot of things, and it's just very comfortable. If you only have one crash and you're right-handed, chances are it is over here on the left. That's very convenient to whatever I'm doing, and that just works for me. Some people have a lot of crashes, and there's this one video I saw where this guy kind of has his stepped, some different crashes, and the way he has them arranged is they're kind of stepped. I thought that was a good idea. With different types of hardware out there, there's just endless ways to add crashes to your setup. Various pieces that would come off this, and I could put something right there, and I could add on something there. I mean, there's just so much you can do. So it's really limitless. Just make it your own and just have fun with it. Just let your individuality take over once you get to the place where you're ready to grow your drum set a little bit. So I hope that helps. If it did, give me a thumbs up. Thanks. And remember, you can totally do this.